All right. Thank you for your patience. I'm just getting set up right now. It's been a long time since I've streamed anything. And I can hear an echo. Where is it coming from? Huh. There we go. People ringing in the new year. It's probably the worst day to do this. Give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody else shows up. All right. I think that's about as good as it's going to get for now. So, you guys ready for the next lockdown? I'm not. I don't even know what to think. I figured they'd have learned their lesson from the last one. But I don't think they're going to stop until we make them. And that's kind of what worries me. don't know. Not a very lively group tonight, huh? Everybody's probably out getting drunk, celebrating the new year. God, this was a horrible year. Yeah, I apologize. I really didn't have much to go on off of tonight, but got a few news clippings and stuff that we can take a look at. All right, let's see if this still works. All right, there we go. Oh, of course, this is where things are going to get interesting, right? Okay, so we have 66 cases. 66 out of 60 billion. More fear mongering. Sounds more like they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes again. Reassortment. Why haven't we heard about this before? Sorry, but no, this just screams panic, panic-inducing bullcrap. The lesson we should have learned from COVID was that lockdowns don't work. Mm, yep. Already blaming Trump. Of course, Trump is always the kicking post for these people. It sickens me. It really does. I'm really tired of the bullshit. Biden doesn't do anything. He's a vegetable. He's not running anything. I'm sorry, but when did we become a germophobic society? This is getting ridiculous. It's like every time something new comes out, oh, sound the alarm, you know, cower in your homes. We can't do this again. So, another thing I wanted to bring up is this constant fog that's been all over America and apparently Europe. I don't know if this is conspiracy theory, conjecture, or whatever, but a lot of people are contributing it to the drones that we've been seeing. I think, now this is just what I think the drones are from Walmart and Amazon because if you look at the Walmart app, which I recently have, they have drone delivery. And I'm pretty sure that what we're seeing is just Walmart and Amazon rolling out their drone delivery program. I don't know how many of you are on TikTok. There is a huge, huge presence on TikTok of people buying drones that basically do exactly what everybody has been talking about. They have the lights, they have spotlights, they can film in the dark, they're pretty decently sized. Maybe not the size of a minivan, but they're pretty big. And the size of a minivan, again, that brings back the idea that maybe these drones, a lot of them, that what we're seeing is just delivery drones. Now, that could account as to why the government doesn't know anything about the drones, which I find hard to believe in and of itself. Sorry, but usually when the government says one thing, I tend to lean the other way. At least with this administration, anyway. I don't really know. This is just conjecture at this point, just pure speculation. I just I can't see it being anything else, honestly. Do I believe in aliens? Absolutely. It would be kind of dumb not to. But at this point, I really don't think that's what this is. I really don't see it being aliens. I mean, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before on a lot of things. But as far as drones traveling through our skies and the government not knowing what they are, they've got to be civilian aircraft. The whole there's a ship parked out in the middle of the ocean, and that's where they're coming from. I don't know. I don't know. The fog that's rolled in over the complete United States and most of Europe. People talking about being sick. It's that time of year. I mean, hell, I got home today and my nose was running. But it's like 18 degrees out there where I live. I mean, I like conspiracy theories. They're fun to go down the rabbit hole, see what other people think and come up with. But when they become reality, that's when it's scary. And what I've noticed is Alex Wright tip jar has been, or Alex Jones's right tip jar has been getting full a lot faster than it should. It just makes you wonder. Where is all this coming from? I know this is probably the worst podcast you've ever seen, but this is early stages. I'm still getting used to it. I haven't really streamed anything in months, and I just really haven't, I don't know, felt up to it. With all that was going on with the election and everything, and now that that's quieted down, feel like I could breathe a little. I don't know about you people, but that was hell. I'm just glad it's over and that we have a better future to look forward to. But getting to that future seems like it might be an uphill climb. And there's a few things that I wanna touch on. This was never really supposed to be a news channel. This was supposed to be a gaming channel. But everybody seems to have liked the news so much that I just been keeping up with it as much as possible. And believe me, sometimes that's easier said than done. But if that's what the people want, I'm here for it. I really don't know what else to talk about. I mean, like I said, I came into this kind of blind with just one thing on my mind, and that was, you know, discussing the Plandemic that they've got coming up. You know, California's probably going to be hella locked down. Let's see if that'll bring people in. Alright, maybe people will filter in now. It's hard to say. It's such a small channel. Just if you're out there, say hi. I would like to actually communicate with the audience. It would be easier than trying to just do this off the cuff. Well, that's sad. Let's see if we can there we go. more, more good news from the government. Well, I suppose in this case it's script news. This was 4 days ago. 4 days ago. I only heard about this crap yesterday, and that's a that's annoying. Sounds like they're trying to put it out there but hide it at the same time. Hmm. Let's see what else we can find. Shall we listen to a CNN article? Might be worth a laugh. I don't think you're getting the sound.
That's Thumper, a 10-year-old Eurasian lynx who used to love to play and scratch the decks high above the foliage. The video from August was taken at the Wild Felid Advocacy Center of Washington, a big cat sanctuary where Thumper lived. Thumper is one of 20 cats from the sanctuary who died in recent weeks from bird flu.
We thought we were doing everything we could to avoid anything like this from happening. The cats are pretty well split up into 30 by 40-foot habitats.
The sanctuary's director and co-founder, Mark Matthews, says the cats' enclosures are spread out among 5 acres. He told me their first cat got sick on November 22nd. The 17-year-old cougar named Hannah, Wyoming, stopped eating and died the next day. A day later, this African caracal named Crackle also got sick and died. Others they lost
How old was the caracal?
included this cougar named Holly and Tabby, a Bengal tiger.
Tabby the tiger was a very fun, loving tiger. She had a super personality. Every time I came up, she'd come running to meet me.
This Bengal cat, Pebbles, also succumbed to bird flu, as well as Mouse, a Jeffrey cat. Only 17 of the 37 cats once housed here are left. Nico, an African serval, is still in critical condition, fighting to regain the use of his back legs.
Feeling devastated.
Sounds a lot like the last pandemic, only in this case it's cats.
Kind of in shock. I'm just taking really good care of those ones who are recovering.
The disease spread rapidly, and they still don't know how exactly the bird flu entered their facility.
Initially, we thought it was for bird droppings from waterfowl. We are in a flight pattern for migratory birds, so I don't know if that's part of the equation or not. So we really don't know at this time if it was food related or not.
Although we don't know exactly how it got there, it just makes sense that it's likely due to migratory birds because we know bird flu is transmitted through the migratory bird population.
Dr. Dean Blumberg is an infectious disease expert at UC Davis.
It's spread through the bird's saliva, the feces, the urine, and so you really can't protect against that in the natural environment.
The staff at the sanctuary are working tirelessly to disinfect the habitats, while also protecting themselves from getting sick. They're wearing PPE, including N95 masks, and doing foot baths when they enter and leave.
The virus may mutate and become more easily transmitted person to person. So the more this virus circulates and specifically co-circulates with human strains, that's going to increase the odds of the virus evolving to more human-to-human transmission. And that of course, could signal another pandemic.
Yep. Everything's going to be a pandemic.
Randy, I understand there's also concern now about house cats. What are you learning?
Yeah, Jim, there's not only the big cats who are at risk, but now it seems that the house cats are at risk as well. This is after a house cat in Oregon died after eating a pet product that was later found to be infected with or tested positive for bird flu. So now this Portland, Oregon-based pet food company is issuing a nationwide voluntary recall. The name of the company is Northwest Naturals, and the recall is for a 2-pound feline turkey recipe. That's one of their raw frozen recipes. And I should note that this product was distributed all over the United States, across this country. It was also distributed in parts of Canada, including British Columbia. So there's a lot of concern.
You mean New America?
Jim, for pet owners, certainly cat owners, about how this might spread. Can their cat get it? Can it spread to humans? So many questions for pet owners. I also want to note, Jim, that sanctuary we reported on is closed for now to the public, but they are hoping to reopen again in March.
Randy Kay, thanks so much. Joining me now, Director for the Center for Infectious Disease Research and Policy at the University of Minnesota, the epidemiologist Michael Osterholm. Good to speak to you again, sir. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you, Jim. Good to be with you.
As far as we know at this point, bird flu has not made the jump of going from human to human. People have contracted the virus from animals. I wonder how far away we are from that possibility. Are we just, in effect, one mutation away from human to human transmission?
Well, Jim, let me just be really clear here that, this is not rocket science, this flu work. It's actually a
No, it's virology.
lot more complicated.
Oh,
We don't
okay.
know. And anyone that tells you they do know, you have to be very careful. What we do know is, of course, flu viruses continue to change. They mutate. This particular H5N1 virus has been doing this really since 1996 when it first showed up in
They probably
China,
would
caused an
mutate.
outbreak in Hong Kong in 97. And what most people don't realize is this was killing cats way back
They probably wouldn't mutate so much if they'd leave them alone.
in 2003 and 4. One of the zoos in Thailand lost over 100 large cats because they were fed culled poultry that had died from H5N1. And so we've been seeing this for a long time in cats. What's changed, though, is in the last 2 years, a new strain of this H5N1 has emerged that has caused a lot of additional infections in mammal species that we'd not seen this one. And so we've been seeing this. One of the zoos in Thailand lost over 100 large cats because they were fed culled poultry that had died from H5N1. And so we've been seeing this for a long time in cats. What's changed, though, is doing this really since 1996 when it first showed up.
So this has been going on since 1996. Yeah, I kind of remember the bird flu being talked about back then, but I never heard anything about cats. But then again, in 96, I was like 10. But I was newsy since I can remember. I've always watched the news. I just don't remember them ever bringing up cats dying, which is weird.
In China, caused an outbreak in Hong Kong in 97. And what most people don't realize is this was killing cats way back in 2003 and 4. One of the zoos in Thailand.
Yeah, in 2003 and 4, I was just graduating high school. I graduated a year early, but I don't really remember anything about bird flu in 2004. Maybe. I mean, they could. Think. I think it was a thing. It just wasn't all that big.
And lost over 100 large cats because they were fed culled poultry that had died from H5N1. And so we've been seeing this for a long time in cats. What's changed, though, is in the last 2 years, a new strain of this H5N1 has emerged that has caused a lot of additional infections in mammal species that we'd not seen this before, over 50. And of course, as you're well aware, the dairy side of the house now has also contributed substantially to this, which we had never seen before. So we don't know where we're at right now with this virus. There will be more influenza pandemics. Is this the one that's going to cause it? We don't know.
Yeah.
Of course, there's always going to be pandemics every 4 years. They're going to ramp it up, and then they're going to release it. But if the bird flu's been out there since '96, and it's just now getting to humans, it's awfully weird timing, I'd say.
That's the open question, of course. I wonder, and I remember I've covered previous H1N1 outbreaks years ago. Those did not develop into a pandemic, thankfully. I wonder over what time period might such a thing happen given where we are now? Is it a matter of weeks, months, years, or does that fall into the we don't know category as well?
We don't know category is really the operative word for today. But let me just point out that we are doing more and more with this virus as a result of human activity, such as what we're seeing in dairy cattle right now, bringing together this virus. And we only learned this past year that the cow udder actually has receptor sites, or the ability for both bird viruses and human viruses to grow in that udder. Why is that important? Because that's how you actually see pandemic strains emerge, where two different viruses co-infect cells, swap out genes, and then create this brand new virus. And so this is why we're so concerned. Has it happened yet? No, we have not seen any evidence of severe illness being transmitted to individuals who work in the dairy area. But that could all change tonight. And that's what we're trying to help people understand, is that we're on a major alert right now for this issue.
What should the country be doing right now to help, to the extent that it can, to help prevent this from becoming something more serious?
Oh, here it comes. I swear to God, if they say lockdown.
Well, this is a lot like going off the edge of a cliff. It's really pretty safe until you get to that last 1/100th of an inch, and then you go off quickly. And that's where we're at right now with this virus. We don't know if we're ever going to get to the edge of the cliff. There is not a lot that people can do as individual citizens. What we need to do is do much more to try to bring the H5N1 situation in dairy cattle under control. We're almost at 900 herds now in this country infected, of which 75% are in California, and it's just continuing to spread. Remember, I just
Of course, it's in California. It's always California.
mentioned that issue about the cow udder and how that could serve as the melding pot for developing a new flu virus. It's unacceptable that we continue to see this kind of transmission in these cattle. Much more needs to be done there.
Wasn't California where COVID blossomed in the United States, for lack of a better word? Wasn't that where it was more prevalent? Considering the state of California right now, with all the feces and urine everywhere, people living on the streets. If this is indeed something to worry about, and it's not just the government playing games with us like they did with COVID, in a roundabout way, it's probably going to clean up the homeless problem, but not the way I would hope they would.
There. We need to be doing more with vaccines. There was a release today from the CDC looking at this case of illness that occurred in the woman in Louisiana. And the good news is that this particular virus looks like it matches up with a candidate virus we have for a vaccine. The problem is there's not one drop of that vaccine made yet. And the world only has the capacity to make about 3.5 billion doses a year, and that's it.
And it's
If it's an RNA or mRNA shot, I won't even look at it. And if they start pushing it like they did the COVID shot, trying to force it down our throats, I hope we can collectively, as a group, tell them where to stick it. Because it won't be in my arm.
It's happening at a time when there's vaccine skepticism, despite the enormous successes they've had
Exactly.
with a number of diseases. Michael Ostro.
Yeah, well, you bring manufacturing back from China over to America, and then we'll talk.
Thanks so much, as always.
Well, your next guest Says the likelihood of bird flu becoming a pandemic is very low. I want to make that very clear. He does believe the U.S. has done everything wrong when it comes to containing the virus. Dr. Scott Gottlieb joining us on the Fast Line. He is a former commissioner of the FDA and a CNBC contributor. Dr. Gottlieb, I'd like to say it's good to have you on, but I wish we didn't, because it means this is going on. What do you mean we've done everything wrong?
Well, this is still viewed by most experts as a low probability risk, as you noted, but there's a range of opinions on this, and most agree that if it could be a potentially high impact event should this break out, and we should be taking more steps to mitigate it. A lot of the things that we've done late. The USDA only recently implemented a program to start testing bulk milk shipments to try to detect outbreaks on dairy farms where a lot of this infection is localized. It's only in the past summer that we started compensating farmers for the losses they sustained by turning over cases on their farms, and the compensation is still too low. We haven't distributed tests to dairy farms so they can start testing their workers. There was one recent study done, albeit a small study, that showed upwards of 7% of all dairy farm workers have likely been infected already with the bird flu. And we haven't done anything to compensate dairy farms for losses they sustain by turning over those cases among their workers, lost days of work, absences, things like that. And I think we need to do more to be compensating these dairy farms if we want them to do the right thing. They're on the front lines of this risk right now for the American public, and we can't expect them to bear the full burden of that. We also haven't taken steps to stockpile the full range of antiviral drugs that could be effective against this virus. We have a lot of Tamiflu in the national stockpile, upwards of 60 million doses, but a lot of that's old, and it could be the case that if this virus does break out, it may be susceptible to one antiviral drug but not another, so you want to have the full.
But with the last one, we just heard that we have a good candidate. It just isn't being made yet.
Range of antiviral drugs available, and we've started late updating the vaccines that could be effective against this virus. The vaccines we have stockpiled right now, about 10 million doses, may not be effective against this particular strain, so we need to update those vaccines and have them prepared as a potential hedge against this breaking out.
71% of the herds, dairy herds in California, have been exposed to H5N1, and I bring up California because we don't realize that it actually is the biggest dairy production state. California is a monster when it comes to agricultural products. Do we need to worry about the nation's milk supply? Or
God, this guy is trying so hard to not say the thing, but all his actions and his mannerisms, he wants to say the thing.
is that just taking it maybe to the nth degree a little bit too far?
Well, look, this is probably wider than just California. California is doing a lot to test their dairy farms, so they're turning over the cases. This may be more widespread among other states as well. There are real economic risks to the spread of this virus. When cattle are infected, they often are put to slaughter. This could become an issue with the milk and the meat supply in this country if it continues. As you said, 875 herds across 16 states have already been infected, and it kills upwards of 2 to 5% of the infected cows, and milk production goes down about 20%. So as this becomes more widespread, and it's likely to continue to spread among dairy cows at this point, it seems to be endemic in the dairy herd in this country, you could see an impact on milk and dairy supply.
Well, that was really interesting that they cut it off like that. I don't know, guys. Just seems a little weird. Pardon my desktop. Like I said, I'm still getting used to doing this. Let's see what else we can find. Oh, wow. 8 months ago. Let's see what they were saying 8 months ago.
There's several different strains of influenza, and this one in particular will infect birds, but it can infect other animals also. Many different wild birds can have this. Of course, the wild birds are everywhere, They fly all over the world, and so then because the virus is in their secretions and in their feces, then it can contaminate domestic bird flocks, commercial bird flocks, but it can also contaminate areas that other animals are in, such as cattle.
Why weren't we freaking out about it then, huh? This is 8 months ago. Why weren't we freaking out about it then? Why is it all of a sudden everyone wants to talk about it now?
So people can get it if they have close contact with infected animals, and most of the infected animals are sick or dying. So it's not common, but it rarely does occur, and there's been reported transmission from other animals too. When people get it, there's a whole variety of manifestations that they can have. It can be very severe, resulting in death, but it can also be very mild, resulting in only some eye irritation, conjunctivitis, or mild influenza-like symptoms, the usual ones that we're familiar with: fever, cough, runny nose, sneezing. There's been very rare cases of person-to-person transmission, and so the vast majority.
So that's why we're not worrying about it, right? Because it's so rare. But yet, now that the rightful ruler is decided or has been put back in office, or will be shortly, now it's a problem.
Of cases are acquired from animals, from sick or dying animals. So people who have this can still get antiviral medication like we give for regular influenza.
Yeah, you mean symptom treatment. You can't really treat viruses. They have to run their course. So until they take this shit off of the shelves anyway, right? Because that's what they did with the horse paste. I say that with quotation marks.
Oseltamivir or Tamiflu is effective against this strain, and the CDC continues to do surveillance to make sure that resistance isn't developing. The traditional influenza vaccines, they don't protect against this strain because those are really strain specific.
Mm-hmm.
Well, certainly anybody who's around sick or dying animals should be wearing full PPE. So that would be goggles, masks, an N95 mask, head covering, gown, and booties for boot covers for your shoes. So that's recommended for people who are in contact with dead or dying animals. People who are around other animals, you'd really want to avoid contact with their feces or their secretions, because those are the fluids that are infectious.
Yep, don't step in dog crap.
We would hope that dead or dying animals, those should be culled from the herd, and so that shouldn't enter the food chain. And then milk, for example, if it's pasteurized, which the vast majority is pasteurized, that would kill any infectious virus.
You know, not that long ago, I was watching this video about butchery, and they were butchering pigs, and even if they were sick, they just wash the meat off and send it out. It's disgusting.
So really the only danger would be from perhaps raw milk or unpasteurized milk, and we don't recommend that.
No, as a matter of fact, in some places, I think PA, where you have people who actively use and drink raw milk or use it for their cattle, uh, the Amish that were selling it, you went in and tipped up all their stock. Didn't even compensate them for it.
Anyway, because that carries other risks. We We don't know if the virus can mutate more to be even more infectious, so that instead of having these rare transmission events, that if it does mutate enough, perhaps it'll be easier to transmit to humans, and then it may even develop mechanisms to transmit from human to human easier, whereas now all the past evidence shows that that's extraordinarily rare.
But yet, this was 8 months ago, but yet now it's a concern.
So that's something to keep an eye on.
Well, this is certainly getting interesting. Shall we talk about something else? Doesn't seem to be very interesting to the public. At least not yet, anyway. So, how about we talk about mm-hmm. Let's see if this helps. Interesting, huh? Trump renews threat. Oh, okay. This is ABC. Of course, it's going to be. Of course, it's going to be weirdness and shock.
Politics this morning, and President-elect Trump making new threats to expand U.S. territory, referencing Canada, Greenland, and the Panama Canal, prompting swift reaction from some of our allies. White House.
Yeah. He didn't threaten. He wants to buy Greenland, and he wants to reestablish our presence in the Panama Canal. And as far as annexing Canada goes, that was a joke. But see, the thing is when Trump talks, people listen. And sometimes that's not so great for certain people, like Trudeau, whose popularity has tanked over the last couple of years due to his dictator-like attitude towards his people. And annexing Canada was a joke, but now Canadians are talking about how they want to be part of America. When your country is seated next to America, and our president makes an offhanded joke about annexing Canada, and the people want that, that says a lot about your society.
House correspondent Mary Alice Parks joins us now with more. Mary Alice, good morning.
Well, good morning. Yeah, the president-elect's recent comments drawing swift pushback from the president of Panama, the prime minister of Greenland, and others, all worried about how serious Trump might be in his threats that he wants to expand U.S. territory.
I really hate these people. I really do.
This morning, President-elect Trump renewing threats that the U.S. should expand its territories overseas. In a flurry of social media posts on Christmas Day, Trump suggesting that the U.S. could take control of Canada, parts of Panama, and Greenland, leading
parts of Panama. Why don't you finish that statement? the parts of Panama that we built. Pardon me. And we're not taking over Greenland. We're trying to purchase it.
To swift pushback from key allies. The president of Panama, Jose Raul Molino, calling President-elect Donald Trump's claims that Chinese soldiers are running the Panama Canal nonsense. Trump Wednesday writing on social media, Merry Christmas to all, including to the wonderful soldiers of China who are lovingly but illegally operating the Panama Canal.
No existe un solo soldado chino en el canal.
There is not a single Chinese soldier in the canal, Molino saying, adding that he does want to keep a good relationship with China.
And I bet if we were to come down and actually investigate, we'd find that that statement is a lie.
As well as the U.S., and that it would be more appropriate to have direct conversations with Trump once he takes office on January 20th. Molino reminding Trump every inch of the canal is Panama's sovereign territory. In the last few days, the president-elect has been railing against the canal, suggesting that the U.S. seized control, arguing that Panama is ripping off American businesses, nominating Miami-Dade Florida County Commissioner Kevin Marino Cabrera, a longtime ally, for ambassador to Panama.
The fees being charged by Panama are ridiculous, highly unfair. This complete ripoff of our country will immediately stop.
Trump also suggesting again that Canada become the 51st state and that the U.S. should annex the Danish territory of Greenland. Greenland's prime minister writing in a statement, "Greenland is ours. We are not for sale and will never be for sale." Of course, it's not likely the U.S. takes over new territory, but in a case like Panama, sources here in Washington tell us that there is a concern of expanding Chinese influence abroad, and the president-elect might be looking for ways to counter that or to keep it in check.
Yeah. Why didn't you lead with that instead of trying to sensationalize the whole thing? It's absolutely ridiculous the way they treat Trump. Ha! Here we go.
Of all time, or a geopolitical disaster. Shark Tank star and proud Canadian Kevin O'Leary is making a stunning claim that half of his fellow Canucks, that's about 20 million people, are open to President-elect Trump's bold pitch to make Canada the 51st state. And he's even willing to go down to Mar-a-Lago to help broker the deal. Watch.
Canadians over the holidays, the last 2 days, have been talking about this. They want to hear more. Think about the power of combining the two economies, erasing the border between Canada and the United States, and putting all that resource up to the northern borders where China and Russia are knocking on the door. So secure that, give a common currency, figure out taxes across the board, get everything trading both ways, create a new, almost EU-like passport. I like this idea, and at least half of Canadians are interested.
And that's not the only person.
No, I'm very much interested too. I live 30 miles from the Canadian border. It would be nice to be able to go and visit Canada for once. I don't have a passport, which sucks. I want one. But at the moment, I can't afford it. And even if I could, where am I going to go? Can't really afford to go to Canada either.
And showing up at Mar-a-Lago, two top Canadian cabinet members are meeting with Trump's team and border czar Tom Homan today. They aim to hammer out a border security plan that Canada hopes will ward off Trump's threats to impose economically damaging tariffs on imports. Homan is telling Fox that Canada is, quote, ready to go on immigration enforcement, and Trump himself has made it clear where he stands.
Essentially, we're paying Canada, and we love Canada. I have so many friends. I love Canada. I love it. But why are we spending $150 billion on Canada? Yet Canada allows people and drugs to flood in through our northern border.
So I caught your face as I was talking, and it wasn't just because I called Kevin O'Leary Ken. What do you think about this merger idea, Tyrus?
I think both of his watches are broken. Like, okay, there's no 50% of Canadians willing to give up Canada. I mean, that's their country. They'd be like 50% of Americans being like, "Oh yeah, we want to join the other side." It's almost sounds like a promotional stunt for it.
I'm sorry, Tyrese. I really respect your take on a lot of things, but this one I don't. Mostly because I live 30 minutes from the Canadian border. I know, I know there's a lot more Canadians. And yes, I said that, Canadian. There's more than you think. A lot of people really are tired of Trudeau. They're really tired of all the bullshit politics. They actually want to join America.
A TV show. I think the Canadian government is paying attention because President Trump is putting tariffs. He's trolling them. He's having a good time with it, and maybe Mr. Wonderful is trying to get on it. But 50%, I'd love to see the poll. Like, it goes back to what this administration is trying to do is not a laughing matter. President Trump is putting his foot down and he's using tariffs to get them to come to the table. I think there's a huge conservative presence in Canada, but we haven't seen it for a long time. And let's be honest, if Canada
We haven't seen a huge conservative presence in America in a long time, Tyrus. Look what happened this year with this election. I think the reason you're not hearing from a whole lot of Canadians about conservatism is because every time they pop their head up, Trudeau whacks them. It's ridiculous. It's whack a conservative up there.
became a country that will play along with this game, okay? It would be they're one of the most liberal countries, which means the 2 Senate seats that they would have would make Jessica's day because they would both be liberal and would lose the Senate. So thank you, no, we're good.
Now that I actually agree with. But the problem is if we're going to do this, we're going to make sure it's done right. We're just not going to take on 2 more liberal California style run states.
Okay.
No deal, as they would say in Guppy Tank or Shark Tank or whatever it is.
Shark Tank, which I was watching last night before I go to bed.
Traitor.
Just kidding. Really? It's so good. So Trump is getting his desired effect, right? People are coming. He's holding court there. He has his transition team down there. But this is pretty high stakes in terms of trade with Canada. So they buy 300 billion of our goods. We buy about 340 billion of their goods. And as last I checked, the USMCA was negotiated by Trump 1.0. So where do you think we end up in all of this, Katie?
Well, we may end up with an additional trade deal that the president believes is better for the American people. But the bottom line is, even if there aren't as many people in Canada who want to give up the country, there are a lot of people that the new administration can work with in Canada, common sense on the economy, to get to the table and at least change some things that he doesn't like that they've seen happening over.
I think the biggest issue is they just need to get Trudeau out of office and get somebody with a little bit more brains in there. Somebody who's not a WEF plant. Soros puppet.
For the past 4 years. I find it very interesting that these ministers who have flown down to Mar-a-Lago after Trudeau flew down there himself to have a one-on-one meeting are meeting with Tom Homan, who is the new border czar. So Trump is not only using tariffs as a way to push for more border security and to combat fentanyl and to combat terrorism and terrorists who come across the northern border, which is the longest border in the world. And so it's very interesting to see how they're using the economics to push on other issues, not just the trade deficit and maybe a new trade deal that Trump may want for the country.
Yeah, Joey, I want to pick up on that with Tom Homan. He seems to have become really a central player in this transition. And you have Democrats and Republicans that are talking to him. You have Mayor Adams here in New York City that had a meeting with him. Do you think that the Canadians being ready to play ball so quickly, so they have a new border security bill to invest another $1 billion in this, they clearly know that it's a central plank of Trump's platform and what he wants to do moving forward. They're also all up for re-election. Right, and Trudeau is forecasted to lose. Do you think they're forced?
It warms my heart hearing Trudeau's forecasted to lose, but it makes me wonder who's going to be joining in his position. It really does. it worries me to think that we might be getting another Trudeau or worse in our neighborhood, and I hope I hope the Canadian people have woken up to what's going on. I know a lot of them have, but just like in America, a lot of them have problems with voting.
We're seeing a Trump-like movement north of the border as well and trying to stamp that out.
I think you've seen it throughout the Western world in some ways, and I don't know if it's Trump-like. I define Trumpism, make America great again, make North America great again now, as populism, as mainstream populism. It's an opportunity for people to feel heard and seen and to feel like you're not speaking for us as some big corporation that puts a movie out with an agenda, one way or the other. You're not speaking for us if your version of DEI puts a disadvantage towards, my kid that's white and male. And so that I don't think is conservatism. I think it's common sense. And I think that that's what you see sweeping across most places.
I like this guy. He very much wanted to touch on that subject, but knew better. I think I need to figure out who he is and look more into him and see what else he says.
Places that have any form of representative democracy. But when it comes to Canada specifically, when you look at the list of things that we import at high levels, kind of towards the top of the list is oil and gas. You can go all the way back, the Keystone Pipeline, I believe, was Canadian oil and gas. So if President Trump is going to drill, baby, drill in Alaska, and he's going to keep our energy cheap and make us energy independent again, he can't tariff oil and gas and get that accomplished probably, or at least not immediately. So if he does this, and the other one is vehicles, and he's spoken to and a lot about Detroit and the vehicles that are made in this country and in Mexico and in other places. So I would predict that if tariffs were the way, chances are some of these things are carved out anyway. But I mean, the truth is he doesn't want an econ war. He doesn't want a trade war. He wants a secure border. He wants to fulfill his main promise, which is to keep bad things and bad people out of our country as much as possible. And I don't understand how Canada can't be a partner in that. So I don't know why it would have to get to the point of tariffs to begin with.
But that is where he started with all of this.
Yeah.
Right? With the 25%.
The thing is the wise warrior walks softly and carries a big stick. That's what it is. You either play ball or you are the ball.
Yes, and that was the point, to have an economic impact quickly that is obviously beneficial to Americans. And I agree with Tyrus. I don't think that there are 50% of Canadians who are like, we don't want any national independence at all. We don't.
You're right. It's not 50. It's 52.
Want our own identity. We just want to be like the cold, forgotten part of America where people maybe go see Vancouver once every 5 years. I don't think they're dying for that either, but I do have faith that these Canadian conservatives do want a better way of life. Canada has some really manly men, and they are forgotten because they're represented by Justine Trudeau, who wanted to give Americans a lecture that, we failed because we didn't elect Kamala and we didn't elect Hillary. Well, that's because American voters rationally looked at these two candidates and said, maybe they don't represent my personal interests. And they look at Donald Trump and they go, I like some of the things he has to say. I'm going to give him a shot once again. But the difference is there are a lot of Americans who want their politicians to work with Donald Trump, not just work against him. And I think that might be how a lot of Canadians feel. But they also want the agreement to benefit their lives economically and in every other way possible. If that means that it's easier to travel between the United States and Canada, that's fantastic. I do think this president wants a secure border. I think that he's trolling. He doesn't want a 51st state, because if you want a secure border, the first thing you do is not dissolve it. So I think people are taking some of his jokes too literally.
Thank you. Somebody with a little sense.
Right. like, how did we say it in the first term? Like, never take him literally.
Seriously, but not literally.
Seriously, but not literally.
Literally. Yes.
The 47th
There
president
you
of the
go.
United States of
I also
America.
would fit in that description.
Congressman Mike Lawler, who is also on the Foreign Affairs and Financial Services Committees. Congressman, thank you for joining us this afternoon.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Anybody who's out there? I think if Canada wants to join America, let them in. If they don't, that's fine. But they're going to play ball one way or the other. Anyway, that wraps up tonight. I really appreciate any and all who have stopped by. If in the future you're seeing this, I'm going to try and make this more of a thing. I don't know if I'm going to stop the AI podcasts. They don't seem to do great, but neither did this. Hopefully with time I'll gain more of an audience. And I'll have people to talk to and bounce things off of and communicate with in the audience. All right. So Happy New Year, everybody. Enjoy your night. Stay safe. If you're drinking, don't drive. And if you're driving, don't drink. Stay out of jail and stay out of the other place.